Hi everyone, I'm Joanna Penn from thecreativepenn.com and today I'm interviewing Boyd Morrison. Boyd is the author of the Tyler Lock action-adventure thrillers as well as two standalone novels. His latest book, The Roswell Conspiracy, is out now, and Boyd is also a professional actor and a Jeopardy champion. So welcome, Boyd.
Great to be here.
Sorry to get you up so early.
Oh, it's not that early. If you wanted to do this at 6 a.m., we'd have a problem.
Exactly. So let's start by you telling us a bit more about how you became an author.
Well, I had been an engineer by training, and I had taken a science fiction writing course and thought I might want to try writing a novel. And around that time, my wife had decided she wanted to go to medical school. So we made a deal that I would put her through 9 years of pre-med, med school, and residency. And then when she was a full-time doctor, I would get to quit my job and try writing full-time to become a published author. And I would get 9 years to do that as well.
Wow.
And so when she finished all of her training, I left my job at Microsoft and became a full-time writer. And got published in 4.5 years.
Wow. And tell us a bit more about how that happened, because your publishing experience is one of those roller coaster rides.
Yeah. So I had written 3 books in that time. And the first 2, I couldn't even get an agent interested. But the third one was called The Ark. And as soon as I submitted that to agents, they all were very interested, and so I got an agent right away. And of course, because most new authors think, well, once you get an agent, you're on easy street. That's it. And she sent it around to 25 publishers, and we got what I call rave rejections, where they said they loved the story and the characters, but they just couldn't see how it would fit into a crowded thriller market. And so once we had received the 25 rejections, we thought, well, okay, that's it. There's nobody else to submit it to. And around that time, the Kindle 2 was coming out, and Amazon was starting to let self-published authors put their books up on the Kindle store. And this is early 2009. And very few self-published authors were out there. And so I talked to my agent and said, well, this book isn't going anywhere. I might as well try to put it up there. And she thought, yeah, I'm sure. Got nothing to lose. Might as well see what happens. And I really didn't expect anything. It was so early in the process, nobody knew what the potential was. And so I put my 3 books up. I priced the first one I wrote at 99 cents and the other 2 at $1.99. And within a month, The Ark was the #1 techno thriller on the Kindle store. And in 3 months, I had sold 7,500 copies. Which today, compared to the Amanda Hawkings and John Locke's out there, doesn't seem that impressive. But again, there was no Nook, there was no iBooks, no iPad. And so nobody knew that you could actually make money selling self-published books. And because of that, my agent was able to take The Ark back to publishers, and Simon & Schuster signed me up to two book deals. One deal for the 2 books in my series, and then 2 for the 2 standalones that I had. And all of those came out within about 18 months, between summer 2010 and fall of 2011. And so that's where I thought, okay, well, I'm going to just keep going. And, I'm again, once you get a publisher, everything's easy, right? You're just smooth sailing.
Yeah, definitely.
And so I had a third contract. 1 book contract with Simon & Schuster for my 3rd book in the series, The Roswell Conspiracy. And I sent it in to Simon & Schuster, and they came back and said the book was unacceptable.
Oh.
And they never gave me any editorial notes or any reason other than that, or that the other thing they said was it needs too much work. Mm. That was in January of this year. The book came out in Australia by Little Brown in May.
Yeah.
So
same
Little
book.
Brown didn't think it didn't need that much work. In fact, they loved it, and it came out in Australia and then in the UK in July. And you know, and it's also we signed deals for the book in Germany and in the US as an audiobook with Audible, which I think is coming out this fall. And because I didn't have a US publisher anymore, and other US publishers didn't want to jump into a series in midstream, I decided to self-publish the book, and it came out as an ebook in July.
It's such an awesome story, your story, because it really represents all the different kinds of experiences that the authors are going through. And you've had it in this very small space of time.
Yeah, about 2.5 years.
Yeah, so I mean, it's going up and down and up and down. And I'm really interested to sort of ask you. I mean, you've almost got what some people might consider to be the ideal situation now, because you've actually got these traditionally published books, and then you've also got your own ebook rights in the US to the book that's now published everywhere else. So it's kind of like this could be the best possible deal for anybody now. What do you think about that?
I think E.L. James probably has the best possible situation. You know, when you're selling 30 million books, you don't really care that the publisher is getting a bigger cut of the revenue.
That is true.
So, you know, I think I'd rather, you know, have a big bestseller, of course. But the way I look at it is, if we didn't have self-publishing on ebooks now, my book probably wouldn't even be out in the U.S. Mm-hmm. And as it is now, I have an outlet to let people read my books and find new readers.
Mm. And I've read all your books. I think they're brilliant.
Oh, well, thank you.
And you know, you write in the same vein as sort of James Rollins and what I like to write in as well. So, you know, I love your action adventure stuff. But I wanted to just ask you as well, because you had this deal with your wife, which is brilliant. And everybody listening, of course, you know, this is a fantastic deal. What did your wife think when you initially self-published? You know, what is it like for the partner of a writer who sees this kind of roller coaster ride, and how can that help other people who might have to justify their writing to their family, myself included?
Well, I think it helps to have somebody who's very supportive. You know, when we made the deal, I had actually written one novel, but didn't make a big effort to try to get it published, which she always needled me about and said, eventually I'm going to make sure this book gets published, and it did. Mm. But when she read it, she realized that I could do this as a career. She didn't say, you know, maybe you should think about, you know, doing something else, you know. So she was very supportive. And so she thought it would happen eventually, that I would be able to make a career of this. And, you know, I think we're both pragmatic in that however that career happens, we're not as picky about whether that's self-publishing or publishing or a hybrid of both. So when I self-published, she thought, yeah, try it. See what happens. Again, we had nothing to lose. The books would have just been sitting on my hard drive. So, you know, it might as well put it out there and experiment and see what we can do with it. So she, but I can say when you go out and talk to people and say that, especially back then, because almost nobody I knew had an ebook reader. And so when I would say, yeah, I have books and they're out and they're published, and they would ask, oh, what publisher? And I would say they're self-published. And you know, people were very polite, but I could see that people thought, oh, okay, good for you. And but now almost everybody I know has an ebook reader, and so all my friends have been asking me, when's the book coming out? They didn't care that I was self-publishing it. They just wanted to read it. And I think that's the big difference between now and 2009. And I think if writers are telling their spouses now that they're going to self-publish, all they have to do is point to all the successful self-published authors out there and say, it is possible to make a living at this.
No, absolutely. Now, we met earlier this year at Thriller Fest, which was marvellous. And I wanted to ask you, like, how has I think that's the sort of public and the readers, how has it changed for you as an author going to things like Thriller Fest? Are you more accepted because you're traditionally published? Have you felt that a change amongst the sort of peer group?
I think there is some cachet to having a publisher to say that you're with Little Brown or with Simon & Schuster or Random House, who I'm with in Germany. I mean, there is something to that. But I think the stigma has gone away. I think when you tell people, oh, you're self-publishing, I think a lot of other authors don't realize that you can actually make money at it. And when I told people what I did before, they were like, really? And especially some of the bigger self-published authors like C.J. Lyons, who you know, who is probably making more than 99% of authors out there, including published authors, that they realize it's just another career path now. And it's more about how good the books are and how much effort the writer puts into their career, no matter which way they go. So I don't think I think it would probably still be harder to get on, say, panels if you're a self-published author. There is some vetting going on. It's harder when you're a self-published author. You know, a lot of people say, well, why don't review places and organizations like this take self-published authors? Well, when there's 100,000 books, how do they decide which ones they're going to accept and which ones they don't? So they need some process to whittle down, and I think they still use the traditional publishers to do that. But I started going to Thriller Fest at the first one in 2006, and people were very open to me. I had only written 2 books at the time, was not even close to getting published, and everybody was very welcoming. Got to know Jim Rollins and John Land and Steve Berry, and it didn't matter to them that I wasn't published. And so I think in that way it doesn't matter as much to other authors. They just want to hang out and get to know you and talk about writing, and that's one of the reasons I go to conferences. It's mainly to meet other writers and learn about the industry.
And I totally agree with you, and I love Thriller Fest, and I'm totally coming again next year. So
good. I will too. I'm back as Agent Fest director next year.
Yeah, I saw that. So that's fantastic. Right. So let's talk about thrillers. So we were just saying before that really right now, it's kind of not trendy. It's trendy to be an erotica writer. It's not trendy to write action adventure thrillers. So what do you see, as the market, and how do you feel about that? Does it change what you're writing, or are you still hardcore thriller?
I think you have to write both what you love to read and to your strengths. And for me, I love to read thrillers. I think they will never go away. I think the types of thrillers change over time in terms of popularity. Right now, it seems to be going more towards crime thrillers versus action adventure. But I think the pendulum will swing again. Somebody will come out with another Da Vinci Code type action adventure, and that will bring up the interest in it. And that's why erotica is so popular now, is because of 50 Shades of Grey. Before that, it was a popular genre, but it didn't have the market power it does now. And so I think you just got to stick with what you like writing, because if you try to write to the market, you'll hate the job, and whatever you produce is not going to be good. And so I think you just have to stick with what you like, and eventually I think it's a cumulative process, and the more product you have out there, the more ways there are for people to find you, and you'll hone your skills as well.
Mm. So tell us about the Roswell Conspiracy. Who's going to enjoy it? What's the book about? And where can people find you?
Well, it's the third book in the Tyler Locke series. It's action adventure, like an Indiana Jones, fast paced. And in this book, Tyler Locke, the engineer, and his friend Grant Westfield are in New Zealand doing a project, and they get a call from a 75-year-old woman who wants to show them her piece of wreckage from the Roswell incident. And they go thinking, well, we're just doing this as a favor. And when they get there, they find that she's being assaulted by two gunmen. And they get away and realize that there really is something to her story. And they are taken on a quest around the world trying to find out why a rogue Russian spy is after this piece of wreckage, and what he plans to use it for is an attack on the U.S. And so they have to stop him within 5 days, or he's going to completely decimate the country.
It's an awesome book, and I highly recommend it to people. I also think it could be a standalone, as in people don't need to have read the other books.
No, and I write all the books in the series that way, so you can jump in at any of the books and not feel like you're lost at all. But if you've read the other two, then you get a little more idea of how the characters, the recurring characters, are progressing. And this book is out again with Little Brown in the UK and Australia. And it's on Kindle, iBooks, Kobo, and Nook in the US.
Yeah. So where can people find you online?
BoydMorrison.com. I also have a Facebook fan page and Twitter feed that you can get to from my homepage. So yeah, come on to my homepage, and or you can just email me. It's Boyd at BoydMorrison.com, and I'd love to hear from anybody.
Fantastic. Well, thanks ever so much for your time, Boyd. That was great.
Well, thanks, Joanna. It was a pleasure.